the 18th day of the month of Kislev, and Be'ezhem Mizbarach, we are sort of at the very bottom of Daf Ayin Aleph Amud Beis, where the Gemara has the final word on the line is Gemara. And then we turn over to our Amud for today, which is Ayin Beis Amud Aleph, where the Gemara is discussing the din that the Mishnah had discussed. On Ayin Aleph Amud Beis, the Mishnah was discussing shechting a Karban Pesach sheloi lishmai on a Shabbos, where both Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer held that it was Yubi Chai V'chatos, and the differentiations between them, which we are going to explore on today's Amud. Says the Gemara, B'maya Skinan. The Gemara wants to know what exactly is the case that we are talking about here. What is the case? There are a number of cases in the Mishnah, two in particular, and we are going to discuss these two dinim. So, b'maya Skinan, what are we talking about here? If you are going to say that you are talking about betoya, somebody that made a mistake. If you say that we're talking about somebody that made a mistake, says Rashi, Kasav shehu zevach acher. He thought that it was a different karban. And then what you would learn from this is Shmamina. We would hear from our Mishnah over here in Pesachim that Akira betos have Akira. That if you accidentally took a shlamim and you called it a Pesach, that would work. Meaning that what you did was you actually offered. You were oker. You successfully were able to be oker. Rashi says, what exactly is an akir batas? Shalon is kavin lakar shem Pesach, that you didn't intend to remove the name Pesach from it. But if you did, shalon is kavin lakar shem Pesach menu. Have you akira oker midas? It's as if you did. Meaning, what you had here was an animal that was supposed to be a shlamim, and you messed up. You brought this instead as a Karban Pesach. And if in that kind of case you're going to be chayev, so you messed up, but you made a mistake. You thought it was a Pesach. This would be an Akira Batos, and then we'd be able to learn from this mission that Akira Batos is, in fact, a good Akira. The problem is that this is a machlokes in the Tosfos points out here, that this is a machlokes in Menachos Daf Mem Tes Amud Aleph. Which means that if our Mishnah was talking about that din, then that would have been a dead giveaway for the Gemara and Menachos, which means that this is not what we're talking about here. Ella, but okay. Rather, it must be that we're talking about not that you did this by mistake, but you wanted to switch it. You planned on switching it. You knew that it was a shlamim, and now you were going to turn it into a Pesach. So you brought it to the Beis Hamikdash, and you said, even though it used to be a shlamim, now I'm going to offer it as a Karban Pesach. And that's what we're talking about. Meaning, the first case of the Mishnah, where the Mishnah says that if you brought a shachta shaloi lishman, that was the lashon of the Mishnah, a Pesach shachta shaloi lishmai b'Shabbos chayev lav chatas. That's the din. Says the Gemara. Okay, fine. If that is true. But okay, so Ema Sefer, the end of the Mishnah says, Shal kol hazvachim sheshachtan l'shum haPesach. Any other korban that you shechted for the sake of a Karban Pesach, meaning you brought a different korban and you intentionally wanted to switch it to Karban Pesach. Im einam re'uyim, if it is not fit, meaning it's a male animal or it's not a male animal or it is 3 years old, so chayev. In all of these cases, you would be chayev, you would be liable. But if they are fit, meaning if it is a male animal that is under a year old, Rabbi Eliezer mechayev chatas, Rabbi Eliezer would be mechayev you a chatas, and Rabbi Yeshua poter, and Rabbi Yeshua would say that you're poter. V'i ba'oker. If we're talking about a case that the person was intentionally being oker, that it was intentionally trying to undo it from being a shlamim to turning it into Karban Pesach. Mali ruin, mali shenim ruin. What difference would it make if it was roy or not? Meaning, it shouldn't make any difference. Since this korban was supposed to be something, and you switched it to be something else, you wanted it to be something else, that should for sure not be okay, according to Rabbi Yeshua. Says the Gemara, Ela pshita b'toya. It must be that the second case is where you made a mistake. Says the Gemara, Reisha ba'oker. The beginning of the Mishnah is talking about oker, where you intentionally wanted to switch it. But Sefer Bataya, and the end of the Mishnah is where you didn't want to uproot it. You made a mistake. Amar Rabbi Abin, says Rabbi Abin, hold on a second. So it says Rabbi Abin. Yeah, that's correct. In Reisha Ba'oker, the beginning of the Mishnah is Oker, Sefer is Sefer B'taya, and the end of the Mishnah is talking about B'taya. And now the Gemara tells a story about knowing that this is the way to learn the Mishnah. Ashkar Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef, the Rabbi Abau. Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef found Rabbi Abau. He was standing in the midst of a throng of people. He was in the middle of a crowd. He says to him, "Masnisimai, what's the din of our Mishnah?" He says, "Reish ba'oker v'sefer b'taya." Like you woke him up in the middle of the night, right? You got to know the beginning of the Mishnah is the case of Oker, where you intentionally wanted to switch it. Sefer b'taya, and the end of the Mishnah is where you made a mistake. Tana minei arbain zimnin, and he learned it 40 times over. And then he knew it was like something that he had sitting in his pocket. So this was a din that had to be taught over and over again to know the beginning of the Mishnah is in the case of Oker, and the end of the Mishnah is Taya. And now we're going to challenge this, if this is really true. Tonight, we taught in our Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Eliezer says, Rabbi Eliezer, Ma im Pesach shemutar lishmai. What was his argument? Pesach, which is allowed to be shechted on Shabbos, lishmai, for the sake of a Pesach. When you changed it from being a Korban Pesach to changing it to being something else, chayev, you'd be chayev. Meaning, if you switched it to something to bring it as an oila, so you'd be chayev. You can't do that. Meaning, you violate the Shabbos now. Zvachin, any other korban shein asur nishman, which you're not allowed to bring on Shabbos erev Pesach. Kshein nishman, when you switched it around, you called it something else. Meaning, now you've called it a Pesach. Eino din she'eh chayev. Is it not logical that you'd be chayev for this? That's his argument against Rabbi Yeshua. V'im isa, and if it's true that the beginning of the Mishnah is talking about a case of Oker, and the Sefer is talking about a case of Taya, says halodami, then these two things have nothing to do with each other. Meaning, the fact that it's mutter to shechted lishmai and kashina ishmai, you'd be chayev. Both Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer agree to that case. The second, meaning what he's trying to learn from, zvachim shem asur lishman, zvachim which are not allowed to be shechted. What's the comparison here? It's a mistake. It's a mistake. The beginning is where you want to do it intentionally. The end is a mistake. Says the beginning is talking about a case where you intentionally wanted to change it, and the end of the Mishnah is where you were making a mistake. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Eliezer loy shani lei. For Rabbi Eliezer, there is no difference. According to Rabbi Yeshua, the shani lei, that there actually is a difference. Lishni lei hachi. Let him say that this is a different case. That should be the answer. Says the Gemara, that's exactly what's going on here. Sort of. This is what he's saying to him. Ledidi, according to me, says Rabbi Yeshua to Rabbi Eliezer, lo dami reisha. These things have nothing to do with each other. Reisha ba'oker. In a case of oker, I agree with you. I agree with you to be chayiv. But the second case is where you made a mistake. And in the case where you made a mistake, I think it's mutter completely. But even according to you, Rabbi Eliezer, that you think that there's no difference between oker and taya. Ledidach, according to you, it still shouldn't be this way. Im amar Pesach, because with regards to a Korban Pesach, sheshina shmona davar aser, that you switched it to make it aser, meaning you said I'm taking my Korban Pesach and I'm shechting it to be an oila for rachatas, whatever else. Terem b'zvachim. But what about a zevach sheshina shmona davar amutar, where you wanted to make it something which you are allowed to violate Shabbos for? Meaning, I agree with you that. He says, I disagree with you on the fundamental premise of your question. But even according to you, where we have this machlokes, even according to you, you don't have a good argument. So at that point, Rabbi Eliezer looks at it and he says, the imurim of a public korban should prove it. Shem mutar nishman, where you are allowed to shecht it for the sake of this korban. V'ashayich lishman. But if you shechted another korban as something that was dedicated as a shlamid to be an olas tamid, so v'ashech l'shon chayiv, you'd be chayiv in such a case. Amarloi, so Rabbi Yeshua says back to Rabbi Eliezer, Amarloi Rabbi Yeshua, loi, that's not true. Im amar be'emurid tzibur shechein yesh lem kitzvah. With regards to the emurim of the tzibur, there's a kitzvah, there's a limit. Everybody should know what the din is. You can't say that you're a taya. You know what the din is and how many karbanos now. So time of Pesach. What about Karban Pesach? She'ein like kitzvah, where it's super simple to make a mistake. Super simple to make a mistake, and therefore I'm not going to hold you responsible for the mistake. The Torah doesn't mean chayiv you in such a case. Says the Gemara as follows. Okay, let's play this out. Lememra, is that to say the kol heicha de isli kitzvah, that whenever there is a finite amount, meaning you know exactly what it is, mechayiv Rabbi Yeshua, that Rabbi Yeshua would be mechayiv you even if you made a mistake? Is that really true? V'harei tinoikas, but what about babies that need a bris milah? Di yesh lehem kitzvah, there is a limit to the amount of babies that you're going to be mal today, right? Meaning, how many babies are there that you're going to get confused? Di yesh lehem kitzvah. Utzanan, and nevertheless, we have a mission that teaches us mi shehayu lo shtei tinoikas, that if you have somebody that has two babies that need a bris milah, echad lemulai achra Shabbos, one of them is supposed to get a bris milah after Shabbos, meaning on Sunday. One of them has to get a bris milah on Shabbos. And he messed up. And he gave a bris milah to the Sunday baby on Shabbos. Chayev. He's chayev there. He's chayev. He shouldn't have done that. And he'd be chayev. And if you have one that needs to have a bris milah on Erev Shabbos, and one that needs to have a bris milah on Shabbos, and you messed up, and you gave a bris milah to the Friday baby on Shabbos, Rabbi Eliezer is going to say that you're chayiv here, and Rabbi Yeshua is paiter. And Rabbi Yeshua is going to say that you are paiter because you were tav b'davar mitzvah, meaning you messed up. You were trying to trying to do a mitzvah, and in that case, yesh la kitzvah. There's only two babies here, right? So our Mishnah is telling us that here in Pesachim, that in yesh la kitzvah, there's a finite amount. There's a finite amount of olas tamid that need to be brought. Rabbi Yeshua there is going to say that if you shechted a shlomim to be an olas tamid, you'd be chayiv because you should know better. Why shouldn't he hold that you know better here as well? With these two babies, you gave a bris milah to the wrong baby. Why does he say that you're potter? Says the Gemara as follows. Amar Rabbi Ami tells us. What are we talking about here? What happens is that you gave a bris milah to the Friday baby on Shabbos, because you're still in the middle of bris milahs the Shabbos. You know that you need to give a bris milah to this baby on Shabbos, to another baby on Shabbos, and you give a bris milah to the Friday baby on Shabbos. But here, the case in our Mishnah is that the Kohen went and he shechted the olas tamid already. Meaning he's done with the mitzvah already. The mitzvah is finished. And then he's like, did I do it? Did I not do it? And he comes back and he does it again with the wrong korban. In such a case, that's where there's going to be a problem. Meaning, since if you're still involved, you still have the mitzvah to do, even whether it's kitzvah or not kitzvah, it seems to be, the way that Rabbi Ami is learning, is that so long as you are still busy doing the mitzvah, we'd say that is enough for you to be tired, for you to be confused, that you're in the jingle jangle of getting the mitzvah done. That kitzvah is just an explanation. It's an example of what it means to be tired by mitzvah. Ihachi, says the Gemara. Okay, let's play this out. We have a third opinion in our Mishnah, and that's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Ihachi, this is so. Rabbi Meir teaches us, somebody that comes and shechts a korban for the sake of their imurit tzibur, potter, you mean potter. Meaning, what case are we talking about here? That the Kohen already went and he shechted an olas tamid, he put it on the mizbeach, and everything's done. And then he comes along again and shechts another korban. So remember, says that you're potter there. It says afal gav the kadam shechtinu leimurit tzibur, even though you've already done this, you've done the whole thing already. Vatanya, don't we have a brayso that tells us Rabbi Chia me'evel erev. Amar Rabbi Meir, that Rabbi Chia, apparently a different Rabbi Chia from a place called Avil Erev, said in the name of Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua, Al Shahayu L'Shtei Tanaikas. The machlekes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua was not in such a case of Al Shahayu L'Shtei Tanaikas, where you have two babies, Echlamul Erev Shabbos, Echlamul B'Shabbos, a Friday baby for bris milah and a Shabbos baby for bris milah. V'shachov v'mal es Erev Shabbos b'Shabbos, and you messed up and you give a bris milah to the Erev Shabbos baby on Shabbos. The chayiv, that in that case you're chayiv. Everybody agrees to that. Then Alman nechleku. What did they have a machlekes about? Al shahayu l'shtei because we have two babies. Echlamul achar Shabbos is a Sunday baby. V'echlamul b'Shabbos and the Shabbos baby. V'shachov the mal es shel achar Shabbos v'Shabbos, and you give the Sunday baby a bris on Shabbos, a day early. The Rabbi Eliezer mechayev chatas. Rabbi Eliezer says that you're chayev there. But Rabbi Yeshua says that you're going to be potter in such a case. That's the that is the challenge that the Gemara issues here. What's the problem? Is that v'tisper, says the Gemara. Is that really logical? Ma hasam there delay of mitzvah. You didn't have a mitzvah to do, meaning there was no baby that needed to get a bris milah yet. In such a case, is that really logical? Ma hasam there delay of mitzvah. You didn't do a mitzvah at all. Meaning you give a bris milah to a baby after 7 days. Pater Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua says you're going to be pater. And yeah, where you have a mitzvah to do, meaning he actually did do a mitzvah, where an Erev Shabbos baby that you gave a bris milah to on Shabbos, you have done bris milah. Mechayev, in such a case, it's going to be mechayev you? How does that make any sense? Amri to be Rabbi Yana, they said in the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Yana, no. Reisha, the first part of the Mishnah is Kagon Shekadu Mamal Shel Shabbos Be'erev Shabbos. Is when you gave a bris milah to a Friday baby, to a Shabbos baby on Friday, where you've done no mitzvah. Turning over the page to Ayin Beis of a base, Shaloi Nasa Shabbos Tidchos, where there's no Shabbos to violate there at all. In such a case, where you violated Shabbos, Shabbos wasn't there to violate, meaning there was no reason for you to violate Shabbos, that Shabbos at all. The Seifa and the second case is Nasa Shabbos Tidchos, where you should have violated Shabbos, you should have done a bris milah. Hacha here also Harei Nasa Shabbos Tidchos Eitzel Karban Tzibur. Here as well, Shabbos should be violated with the Karban Tzibur, meaning this Shabbos is allowed to be violated in order to do a Karban Tzibur. And that's the difference here, is that, says Rabbi Yeshua, if you are going to have a case where you are supposed to be violating Shabbos in order to do a mitzvah, so if you violated Shabbos to do the wrong action, you messed up, you made a mistake, that's where Rabbi Yeshua is going to say that you're potter. And so is Rabbi Meir. But in a case where Shabbos doesn't need to be violated at all, that's where even Rabbi Yeshua is going to say, you have no reason to break Shabbos. You might have thought that you needed to break Shabbos, but there you were wrong. Meaning, you made a mistake on top of a mistake. Shabbos was not supposed to be broken there at all. So Amar Lei Rav Ashi Rav Kahana, says Rav Ashi Rav Kahana, Hachanami. So here also, Shabbos always is going to override. Bris milah is always going to override Shabbos. So what do you mean? Karban Tzibur violates Shabbos. Bris milah also does. So Amar Lei says to him, yeah, that's true. Legabe high gavra, but with regards to this guy, this male, mias lei is yai. By him, Shabbos should be. He has no reason to violate Shabbos at all. Meaning, there's nothing that the Torah is being mechayiv him to break Shabbos, and therefore, if he did, and he made a mistake, that's on him, because the Torah didn't tell him that he should violate the Shabbos. The Torah told him he should keep the Shabbos. If he doesn't know what the halacha is and he messed up because he doesn't know the din, that's on him. We will continue with the next line of the Gemara Shalkar al Zvachim. We will see that tomorrow. wishing everybody a freilichen Yud Tes Kislev, and hope everybody will be at the Farbrengen tonight.